My name is Marcus Brown. I work with MLC CAD, and today what we're going to do is go through and talk about SOLIDWORKS PDM. Now, SOLIDWORKS PDM comes in a couple flavors, PDM Standard and PDM Professional. It used to be called Enterprise PDM. And I want to talk about what it can do for you and for your organization and how it works and how it helps you with your process. So we're going to talk about what it is and what will it do for me, right? How easy is it to use and what can it do to improve my current work process? PDM, or Product Data Management, is basically two things. It's a vault that's going to store and keep safe all of your data and your documents, but it's also a workflow. So it's going to organize how you work. It's going to organize what the work does and where it goes along the way, so you can keep track of it all. So it's not only going to keep it safe, it's also going to keep it organized in a way that you've never really been able to do by simply dropping it into a shared network drive. So some common concerns that we see with people, besides the fact that your desk looks ridiculous, right? You have paper everywhere. You're constantly searching for files. You've got a lot of redundant paperwork. A lot of that paperwork is actually redundant because you printed it out several times knowing you're going to lose it. So you duplicate a lot of effort, and all of this together, besides the wasted time and the wasted paper, how much do you think this is costing? And so most of the time when we look at this, or we measure this, or we talk to people, we find out that there's at least a 25% of their time and resources are really being completely wasted simply because there is no solution, there is no tool to help you to organize this stuff. So what we're going to talk about is how to use PDM to solve a problem and to work on a project. Now, because everybody works in a little bit of a different industry, I'm going to have a kind of an interesting project here. This is my daughter. Her name is Ivy. She's 2 years old. We built a playground, and of course I built it in SOLIDWORKS. And I'm using the vault to organize all the information for this playground. And as the kids are starting to grow, I want to continue to grow this playground, this project, and so we're going to put in a basketball goal. My parents, her grandparents gave us some money, and they said, we want you to build some kind of a basketball goal for the kids to play with. And so that's kind of our goal, that's our setting, and we'll see what we can do inside of PDM to make that happen. Now, the first thing I want to talk about, especially with PDM, is the user interface. And when you talk about the user interface, usually, you have to learn something, right? You have to figure out how to get around in it. Enterprise PDM is just on your local hard drive. So this is Windows Explorer. Everybody knows Windows Explorer because everybody uses it every day. But one of these folders is not like the other. One of these folders doesn't belong. It's the vault. And this vault has magic folders. So instead of being yellow folders where you just have folders sitting on your hard drive, these magic green folders show you everything in the vault. And if you save anything into these vault folders, it'll save it into the vault, and everyone can see it everywhere. Similarly, if somebody else saves a file into their vault folder, you'll be able to see it on your local hard drive. So I can browse around just like a normal Windows folder. In my projects folder, I have various projects I've been working on, and one of them specifically is the playground folder. So I'm going to jump in this playground folder, and we'll kind of take a look around and see what we have. Now, Enterprise PDM is great at managing CAD data. So for instance, I have many drawings and parts in here. So here's my tree fort. This is the tree fort that I built that you saw the picture of. And when I click on a file inside of Enterprise PDM, you'll notice that down at the bottom in this little preview area, it shows a preview of that part file. How much time do you spend constantly opening and closing files to try to make sure that you've got the right one? Browsing around, looking at it, trying to find the one you're looking for. By simply having nice little screenshots, nice little images here, and then the eDrawings viewer, we're able to very quickly look at, interact with, explore. I can even measure and mark up this document until I know it's the one I'm looking for. Once I have it, now I can double click it to open it, or I can do other things, such as in this tree fort, I want to take a look at what's in it. So what's in the tree fort? Well, I have a bill of materials tab here, and without even opening it in SOLIDWORKS, I can open up and take a look. Actually, I'm going to do it on the drawing here, because on my drawing, I have a bill of materials specifically for the raw quantity of lumber that's in this tree fort. I used weldments to build the tree fort, and I don't have to open it up in SOLIDWORKS in order to view this bill of materials and view all the quantities. So I can go to the lumber store, I can go to Lowe's, wherever I'm going to go to buy all this stuff. Everything's there. Now, I didn't have to fill this in. All I did was create the drawing. You can see here on the preview tab, create the drawing, create my bill of materials, and then that information, when I check it into the vault, becomes available. I can see what's inside this file. So this drawing file contains my fort, my slide, my tree fort, and all of this lumber. But I can also see where these files are being used. So a familiar interface, very easy to work with inside of SOLIDWORKS or inside of PDM. Now, I have a couple of ideas on what I want to do to add a basketball goal. So the basketball goal, I've got a couple of different options. One of them is already in here, and you can kind of see I have this full-size basketball hoop. I downloaded this off of GrabCAD, I think. I also have some files that I pulled from 3D Content Central, and I'm going to use these files inside of SOLIDWORKS to mock up the new design so I can get it sent past the executive committee. And when I say executive committee, of course, I mean the wife. So let's see if we can open up a file and see how this works when you're dealing with SOLIDWORKS files. I opened up another CAD document, another hoop here. This is a toddler hoop, just a smaller version, and I'm running with two different scenarios, and I'm going to run them both and actually build both of them, mock them up so that my wife can take a look. Now, I downloaded this, but I want to put it in the vault. Let me show you how easy it is to put something into the vault. You could do a copy-paste. You could do a save as. In this scenario, I'm going to do a save as, and I'm going to save it into my playground folder. You get into the save as folder. This is Windows Explorer. And by just simply jumping into the vault folder, I can quickly look at and see what's already in this folder and find what I'm looking for. So I'm going to call this my toddler hoop and just go ahead and save it in, because I want to drop it into that playground assembly that I had earlier. First thing it does is it asks me for some data. Now this data is going to be used to help me find and help me organize all my information. So for instance, the description, this is the toddler basketball hoop. And if I make a drawing of this, or if I search by any of these terms, it's going to make it very easy to find it. The cost on this guy, I'm thinking it was like $89 or something along those lines. And I'm going to click OK, and it drops this toddler hoop into the vault. Now, because it's in the vault, I'll be able to see the version of the file that's in the vault. And from just right here inside here, I can just check in this file and sort of publish it to everybody. So by saving it into the vault, it's now archived, and by checking it in, it's published to the whole organization so everyone can see it. I'm going to say added an optional toddler hoop. Now this information is going to become available to anyone and everyone that has access to the vault. Let me show you what that looks like. Here's my toddler hoop. Obviously, here's the preview tab, so I can take a look at the toddler hoop that's there. But I can also look at the history of this file and see when it was checked in, why it was checked in, and any notes that are added as it's checked in. Now, often do you find a file and you think, I wonder where that file came from? Who created that file? Why did they create that file? What's changed since that file was created? And all that information is available inside here. So with this toddler hoop open, I'm going to go ahead and open up the playground where I'm going to drop it. So I'm going to open up my playground equipment, and I'm going to say, let's see, this is the fort assembly. It's the one that I want to create. But when I open up this fort assembly, you'll see that it is going to be in read-only mode. Let's open that guy up. It's read-only because it's already been approved. SOLIDWORKS workflows are going to be able to keep track of everything that you have. So for instance, this vault is released, or this for assembly is released, meaning I can't change it, right? It's already in production, it's already been built, I cannot make a change to something that's already been put into production. But I have a workflow that manages all this information. Let me show you what my workflow looks like, because it's really pretty simple. It basically says everything starts out work in progress, and if it's been approved, it goes to the released state. Once it's released, nobody can change it unless we do a new release and we make a change to it. So it's going to go basically from Rev A to Rev B. So I'm going to make a change to this fork because we're adding this basketball hoop. So right here inside the vault or inside of Windows Explorer or inside SOLIDWORks, I can change the state and create a new release. Now I can explain why I'm creating this new release so people will understand, hey, why did we rev this up? We're trying to add a basketball option. So anyone in the organization will be able to quickly see what happened and why it happened, so they understand that if they pull the old version, they're not missing anything. All they're looking at is the change. So I'm going to check this guy out and take ownership of it. And by doing this, it's going to allow me to now bring in that toddler hoop. So we'll bring this guy in here. Let's see. Let's move it. Let's see. Move it down a little bit. Maybe move it over this way so that we can put it kind of off this side of things. And that looks about right. So that's where I want to put it. At least that's where I want to mock it up in order to kind of visualize what's happening. I also want to bring in a basketball. So when I go to insert a component, I don't remember where I put the basketball, but it's okay because I can quickly search for it. When you go to search inside the vault, because the open dialog or the save as dialog is the vault, you can browse around for your files, or just simply come up here to the top right to the search dialog. Search dialog is built in, and it's very, very powerful. So I can search by the name, I can search by who checked it in, by how old it is, I can search by things like the material. I'm going to go ahead and just search by the word basketball. And you'll see that I have the full-size basketball hoop and the basketball itself, and that's all I'm looking for is this guy right here. So I'll drop the basketball in near the hoop. Looks like I put it underground, but that's okay. I'll throw it out there like that. That looks pretty good. I'm going to now save this and submit this for approval. So when I go over to my vault and look at it, you can see that it's been changed, but you can also see that I now have additional files in here that I didn't have before. The toddler hoop and the basketball are being maintained. The bill of materials is always live, always ready to go. And when I check it in, I can tell it that I added the basketball, added the hoop and ball. And I'm feeling pretty good about this. I'm ready to show this to management. I'm ready to get approval for this. So I'm going to change state, and I'm going to submit this for approval. Now, if this was a purchased part, let's say it's just you know, something simple that we just bought, we didn't need to design it or decide on it, I could say no approval required and go ahead and just push it through. But this is something I'm not really sure about. I want to talk about this, and I want to make sure she understands what it is, because how many times do you have an idea or do you have something going on, and it's not enough to just talk about it, you actually have to visualize it, show it to her. So I'm going to say added the goal, see if you like this option. So this is what a workflow would look like when you're using PDM. You'll do your work inside SOLIDWORks as normal. You'll find the files quickly that you're trying to get to by using the powerful search capabilities. You'll also, once you're done, you'll communicate those changes by simply right-clicking and changing the state to push it to where it needs to be. So you don't have to get up from your desk to go send something to somebody. You simply click on the Submit for Approval button and go. Now there's a couple things that are happening during the submit for approval. One of those things that's happening is notifications. These notifications are taking form of either an email that's built into your existing email system or an email that goes through the PDM system. Here's an example of an email notification. This is going to save you from having to walk around and explain to people, hey, I've got something here waiting on you. All they have to do is wait for their little icon down here to ding, and they have now a notification that says something has been approved. So maybe I submitted it for approval and I'm waiting to find out whether it got approved. I don't have to get up and look. I simply wait for the notification to come back. If I am the one that needs to be doing the approvals, every time something's ready for my approval, I'll get a little ding and it'll tell me to get going. And I can quickly view that file, take a look at the history of that file, find out who did what, in what order, at what time, and add my notification or add my information to it. Now, let's talk a little bit more about this searching, because a lot of times the work that you have to do is always more or less the same, right? How many different projects are you currently working on? If you had to make a list of every file that you're touching or actively messing with, or the progress that you're making on every single one of those files, how long would it take you to generate that list? Well, in PDM, all you'd have to do is create a search for it. So I'm going to go to my root folder of my vault, and I'm going to do a search. My job at this company is to approve things. So I'm going to go into my workflow, and I'm going to say anything that is pending approval, that's my job. My job is to approve things. When I search for pending approval, it now gives me a complete list, an exhaustive list with no missing files of everything that needs to be approved. And I can, from right here inside the search dialog, I can preview these files. I can review to make sure they look good. I can look at the history to find out what happened. What is it exactly that I'm approving here? And once I'm happy with it, all I have to do is right-click and say that it's approved. And I'm happy with this file right here, so I'm going to approve it, say this looks good, and now this thing is going to be out of my list and off my plate. And so by simply working through your to-do list and working through your list of files that you need to worry about, you'll know you're not missing anything. How much time do you spend walking to your coworkers' desks saying, hey, what's the status on this project? How many times do you go to your boss's desk saying, hey, what am I supposed to be working on? About your employees' desks to say, hey, what's this, are you done yet on this file? I can search for that. I can say, for the playground, we'll take a look at the just the playground specifically. What are we waiting on in terms of things that are pending approval? And at this point, we only have a few things that are waiting for my wife to sign off on. One of them, obviously, is the thing we pushed in there, which is the fort assembly. We added that basketball and the hoop, and we're trying to wait until the wife says that it's a good idea to add the goal. Notice we actually have a lot of history here. We checked it in. We said, is it okay? She liked it. It was approved. We told them to get to work, and we started running through. We actually built it, and then now we're looking to add to it with the basketball goal. Now I have another thing that's pending approval here, and that is my workshop. Everybody needs a workshop, right? So here's a model of my workshop. I'm waiting for that to get approved. I also have this tree fort drawing that I need to update. And once I update that tree fort drawing with the toddler hoop, I can go ahead and approve that. The slide has already been done. That guy's ready. So I'm going to go ahead and approve that. Now when I release it, it says it requires one more user. Some of these workflows have multiple people that must sign off on things. So you may have a manufacturing and a quality, or maybe purchasing and engineering that needs to sign off. Slide looks good. Sourcing from localhost. And so now we can see that this file has been voted on once to create this released document, and I'm waiting on one other party to go ahead and release that file. So last thing I want to do is show you what this all looks like from the other perspective, from my wife's point of view. Now, as much as I've been trying to get her to install PDM on her laptop, on her computer, she's not a CAD user. There's not everybody in your organization is a CAD user. So when you have non-CAD users, when you have people that need to get involved in the vault, you can give them web access, for instance. And so in this web access, I can just come in and log in through the web browser. And this is what it's going to look like on their screen. I'm going to kind of browse through here and take a look at some of the various different folders. Oh, let's log out. This is the login screen. And when I do a login right here, now it doesn't want to log in. When I log in there, it's got a nice web browser so that I can use it on my phone. I can download files and view those in eDrawings just as easily as I need to. So in this example, hopefully what you've seen is we are able to work with a really easy interface. Windows Explorer is something everybody's familiar with. So the interface, learning the interface, understanding and working inside of it is extremely easy to work with. The workflow, you're enforcing those procedures, right? When I take a file and I push it into the vault, I know in order to get somebody to look at it, all I have to do is right-click and submit that for approval. That's the way it's supposed to be, and because it's such an easy right-click, I can push it through without a whole lot of effort, a whole lot of fanfare. The version control is automatic. When I push something through, when I add it to the vault, when I make a change, the software is constantly prompting me and asking me to add notes to what's going on. I'm capturing that history and keeping track of all the old versions all the way through. It's making it easier to search because I'm naming these files, because I'm adding properties such as cost information, because I'm adding things like vendors and part numbers. I'm able to quickly go find that information based on its metadata through a searching interface. And with the digital approval, I don't have to go get things signed off. All I have to do is right-click and push it on and get everybody informed and available to the information so that everybody is involved in the process. So we're streamlining the organization. We're trying to communicate effectively, which is, of course, the foundation of any stable and successful marriage. But it's also accountability. Everything that needs to be in the vault should be in the vault. It's easy to see that it's there and understand that it's been done. The big thing, though, is time and money and organizing everything, keeping it track and stopping so we don't lose anything. That kind of organization, that kind of workflow, that kind of functionality is priceless. Thank you so much for your time today. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out. My name is Marcus Brown. There's my email and my phone number. We have questions, or we have Michael Burks is answering any questions that you have. So feel free to ask. If you want to know anything more about PDM, please let me know.